I wish I could say I didn't see it coming, but with my sister, humiliation usually arrived dressed as a smile. It was my cousin Myra's birthday dinner, one of those family gatherings where everyone pretends they're doing great, even if their life is crumbling behind closed doors. The restaurant was cozy, dimly lit, with candles flickering on long wooden tables. The entire family had already gathered, talking loudly over clinking cutlery, the smell of garlic butter drifting through the air. I walked in alone, of course. I always walked in alone. But tonight, something about the air felt sharper. As soon as I stepped inside, my sister, Hania, spotted me. She was sitting at the far end of the table, surrounded by our cousins, laughing like she just told the funniest joke in the world. Her hair was perfectly curled, her dress expensive, her confidence manufactured but loud. The moment her eyes landed on me, her smile shifted. Not warm, not welcoming, smug. I forced a small smile and made my way down the table, greeting relatives, answering polite questions. But I could feel her stare burning into me like a spotlight. When I reached her, she leaned back dramatically in her chair and said, loud enough for half the table to hear, "Oh, look, she's here. But where's your +1? The table fell silent for 1 second, just long enough for everyone to register what she'd said and who it was aimed at. My cheeks warmed instantly. My throat tightened. My fingers curled around my purse strap. "Hania," I began softly, trying to steady my voice. She cut me off with a laugh. A sharp, delicate little scoff. "Oh, come on," she said, waving her manicured hand in the air. "Don't tell me you're still single? You didn't bring anyone again." Her tone was syrupy, sweet, venom-laced. She wanted a reaction. She wanted eyes on me. Around us, people shifted uncomfortably. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else pretended to read the menu. I managed a stiff smile. "I came alone, yes." Her eyes sparkled victory. "Of course you did." She said it as if it was the punchline of a joke, as if my personal life was something she could amuse herself with. My chest tightened. I felt that familiar sting, sharp, humiliating, a slow burn spreading up my spine. I had come here to celebrate Mira, not to be dissected publicly. "Let her sit, Hania," my cousin whispered under her breath, trying to help. But the damage was already done. The moment I sat down, I felt smaller, like I had taken a seat not at the table, but in a spotlight I never asked for. The waiter arrived to take orders, and Hania leaned closer, whispering loudly enough for the entire row to hear. "You really should consider dating apps, you know. At your age, they're necessary." A few cousins exchanged looks. Someone pressed their lips together to hide their discomfort. No one spoke up, except Mira, the birthday girl, who shot me an apologetic glance that said, "I'm sorry. She's like this with everyone, but especially with you." I pushed my glass away slightly and tried to breathe, but the ache in my chest only grew heavier. Because this moment, this question, this humiliation wasn't new. I had spent years being the single one, the late bloomer, the one everyone teased gently but Hania targeted like sport. Tonight, though, something felt different. Maybe it was her tone. Maybe it was the crowded restaurant. Maybe it was the way my mother looked away, pretending she hadn't heard anything. Or maybe it was simply that I was tired. So tired. Tired of the jokes. Tired of the pity. Tired of shrinking myself just to make the room comfortable. As the conversations picked back up around us, I stared at the candle in front of me, the flame flickering softly, and an unexpected thought hit me. How long am I supposed to keep swallowing this? How many times do I have to sit quietly while she pokes at the same wound? And right then I knew. Tonight wasn't going to end the way she expected. Not this time. I tried to focus on the menu in front of me, pretending my hands weren't trembling. The words blurred slightly, not because I couldn't read them, but because Hania's voice kept looping in my head like a mocking echo. "Where's your +1? At your age, necessary." She said it casually, but she knew what she was doing. She always knew. The waiter came over to take orders. My voice wavered when I spoke, and I hated that she noticed. Hania raised an eyebrow with a smirk that said, "There it is. I still get to you." As the food arrived, conversations picked back up around us. But every time someone mentioned relationships or engagements or anniversaries, Hania somehow found a way to slide her eyes toward me, like I was a reminder of something lacking. At one point, She leaned toward our cousin Ryan and said, loudly enough for the table to hear, well, some of us are just selective. And some of us, well. Her gaze flicked to me. Some of us are single by default. Heat surged up my neck. Ryan glanced at me with an awkward half-smile, the kind people give when they don't want to get involved. Mira shot Hania a sharp look. It's my birthday, Hania. Can you not? Hania shrugged dramatically. I'm just joking. God, everyone's so sensitive these days. Sensitive. That word again. The one people use to silence pain they don't want to acknowledge. I picked at my food silently, swallowing around the growing lump in my throat. I kept telling myself to breathe, to stay calm. But hurt has a way of settling into your chest and expanding with every heartbeat. A few minutes later, my mother leaned in from 2 seats away. Beta, don't take it personally, she whispered discreetly. I looked up at her, already feeling my eyes sting. She's just teasing, Mom added quickly, with that same dismissive tone I'd heard my entire life. You know how she is. Yes, I knew exactly how she was. But what hurt more was how no one ever asked her to stop. She's crossing boundaries, I murmured, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom frowned softly. It's just a question about a +1. Don't make a scene. Don't make a scene. Another family classic. As if the humiliation wasn't the scene, my reaction was. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My mother patted my hand, thinking she was soothing me when the truth was, she was smoothing me down the way you flatten a wrinkle, just enough to ignore it. I forced myself to eat a little, but everything tasted heavy dull. Then came the moment that tipped the night into a deeper ache. When dessert arrived, cupcakes with sparklers, everyone stood to take pictures. Hania adjusted her dress, posed perfectly, and pulled Mira into a side hug. Then she looked at me again, eyes gleaming with performative pity. Oh, by the way, she said sweetly, did you ever figure out why your last relationship didn't work? Maybe you could have brought him tonight. A few heads snapped toward us. My stomach sank. My relationship, the one that had ended quietly, painfully, after months of trying. I swallowed hard. That's not the time or place. Oh, relax, she interrupted with a laugh. We're all family here. It's not a secret. It felt like someone pressed their thumb against a bruise I tried to hide. My heart thudded painfully. My face felt hot. I looked away, trying to gather myself, but Hania wasn't done. She leaned closer, her voice just loud enough to draw attention. You know, maybe if you weren't so picky, you could have brought someone. Or anyone, really. It was a dagger wrapped in sugar. I inhaled sharply, my fingers curling into fists under the table. The people around us shifted uncomfortably. A few looked down at their plates. Someone pretended to check their phone. And that was the moment I realized something important. No one was going to stop her. Not my mother. Not my family. Not even Mira. And if I kept sitting here quietly, I was telling them it was okay. That I was the acceptable target. That my dignity was optional. That my pain was background noise. I felt something fragile inside me stretch too far. One more comment. One more smile. One more public joke. And I knew. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I don't know what expression I was wearing, but whatever it was, Hania seemed to take it as fuel. Because the next thing she did was worse. As everyone settled back into their seats after the birthday photos, she clinked her glass lightly and said, Actually, hold on. Everyone, I have a funny question. My stomach dropped. Not here. Not again. Not in front of everyone. I caught Myra's eyes widening in warning, but Hania was already leaning forward, elbows on the table, smirk polished and ready. She pointed her chin toward me, like I was a prop. So, my dear sister. She dragged out the words, savoring the attention. If you did have a +1 tonight, who would it be? Hypothetically. A few people chuckle politely, the way people laugh even when something feels wrong because they don't know what else to do. My breath stalled in my chest. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I'm not answering that, I said softly. Come on, she cooed. Don't be shy. We're all family. That's enough, Hania, Mira said sharply. But Hania only grinned wider. Let her talk, Mira. Maybe she finally has someone. Or maybe she still. She paused for emphasis, raising an eyebrow. Searching. The word hit me like a slap. Searching. as if my life was incomplete, as if I was a leftover waiting to be chosen. A tightness spread across my chest. The restaurant felt smaller, the walls closer. I could hear the low hum of conversations around us, the clink of cutlery, the faint music playing over the speakers. Everything except my own voice. I stared at the flickering candle on the table, the flame bending ever so slightly whenever someone shifted. It looked delicate, breakable, like me. Then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife, she continued, "You know," she said casually, "I've always wondered if you're too emotional for relationships." She mimicked wiping a tear dramatically. "Boys don't like clingy girls, sis." A few people inhaled sharply. My heart lurched. Clingy, sensitive, too emotional. Labels she'd pinned on me since we were teenagers. Labels she used to make herself feel above me. I felt the pressure inside me climbing. Higher, tighter, sharper. It wasn't just the comment. It was everything behind it. The years of her mocking me during family dinners. The way she rolled her eyes whenever I expressed an opinion. The way Mom always told me to let it go. The way everyone expected me to be the quiet one, the composed one, the one who never complained. And tonight, sitting there with eyes on me, I realized. It wasn't that I couldn't speak. It was that I'd been trained not to. My silence was never natural. It was learned. A survival strategy. But as I listened to her laugh again, something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just quietly, decisively. I straightened in my chair. Hania noticed instantly. Her smile faltered a fraction, sensing the shift. Before I could speak, my mother leaned closer. "Please," she whispered urgently. "Don't start anything. Let it go. Let it go." There it was, the phrase that had caged me for years. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. Her eyes were pleading, not for me, but for the peace of the table. For appearances. For another night where I swallowed humiliation, so she didn't have to confront conflict. I felt something warm rise in my chest, something that wasn't pain anymore. It was anger, but not the explosive kind. The kind that comes when you finally recognize your worth. I turned back to Hania. She was already leaning back, arms crossed, a smirk tugging at her lips again. She expected me to shrink. She expected my silence. She expected the same ending as always. I blush. I force a smile. I pretend I'm fine. But this time, I felt a calm I hadn't felt in years. I lifted my eyes and said quietly, clearly, "Hania, why does my relationship status matter so much to you?" Her smirk dropped, just a little. A ripple of tension went through the table. Because for the first time, I wasn't playing my assigned role. For a moment, the entire table went still, so still that even the restaurant's background music felt distant. I watched Hania blink, confused, almost offended that I dared interrupt the script she'd written for me. "What do you mean?" she said finally, eyebrows lifting in faux surprise. "I was just asking a question." "No," I said softly. "You were making a point." Her posture shifted, arms tightened, smile stiffened. Across the table, my cousin Ryan leaned back slowly, sensing the shift. Mira froze with a fork halfway to her mouth. Even the older relatives, who normally ignored our sibling tension, glanced over. Hania gave a light laugh. "God, you're so dramatic." I was joking. "Why are you suddenly so defensive?" I finished for her. Her face hardened. "Excuse me. You heard me." This time I didn't look down. I didn't apologize. I didn't shrink. I held her gaze. For once, she looked away first. But only for a second. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and scoffed. "Please, if you can't handle simple questions, that's not my problem." "It becomes your problem," I said, voice steady, "when you ask them to humiliate me." Mira quietly set her fork down. Mom inhaled sharply. Someone at the other end whispered, "Oh boy." Hania leaned forward, tone sharper. "Humiliate you? Are you serious? I'm your sister. This is how siblings talk." "No," I said. "This is how you talk. And everyone else lets you." Her eyes widened. She wasn't used to being confronted, especially not by me. "You're overreacting," she shot back. "That's your favorite line," I replied. "Anytime someone calls you out, you say they're overreacting." Her lips parted, as if she were searching for a comeback. but for once, none came quickly. "You make everything personal," she said instead. "You make everything a performance," I countered. A few people gasped under their breaths. Her cheeks flushed. "You're embarrassing yourself." "No," I said. "I'm responding to years of you embarrassing me." Silence. Heavy, hot, suffocating silence. I swallowed hard and continued, my voice softer now, not weak, just honest. "Why does my being single bother you so much? Why does it make you feel superior? Why do you bring it up every chance you get?" Before she could speak, I added, "And why do you think it's okay to make my personal life a joke in front of everyone?" The truth landed like a stone tossed into water, ripples moving through the table. For the first time that evening, Hania didn't have a smirk. She looked away briefly, jaw tightening. "I wasn't making your life a joke," she muttered. I tilted my head. "Then what do you call it?" Her eyes flashed. "You're so sensitive, always twisting my words." I let out a slow exhale. "There it is again," I said. "Sensitive. The word you use to avoid accountability." She scoffed loudly. "You're impossible. And you're cruel," I said bluntly. Not yelling. Not attacking. Just saying what had been sitting in my chest for years. Mom immediately leaned forward. "Stop it. Both of you. This is Myra's birthday." I turned to her. "Mom, please. You've told me to let it go my whole life. And every time, it only made Hania worse." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it, because she knew it was true. Hania crossed her arms. "So now I'm a villain?" "No," I said gently. "You're someone who hurts people and calls it humor." The words hit her harder than I expected. Her expression shifted. Anger first, then something else. Something like discomfort. Maybe even recognition. "Hania," I continued quietly, "I didn't come here to fight. I came here to celebrate Mira. But I'm not going to sit quietly while you tear me down to make yourself look better." Her lower lip twitched, barely noticeable. Around us, no one spoke. No one laughed. No one defended her. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't the only one seeing her clearly. Hania swallowed, her voice unusually small when she finally managed. "I didn't mean it like that. But the thing about years of hurt is, intent doesn't erase impact." And she knew it. For a moment after Hania's quiet, "I didn't mean it like that," the table remained painfully still, like everyone was afraid to breathe too loudly. It wasn't the kind of silence that came before laughter. It was the kind that came before truths. Mira was the first to speak, her voice gentle but firm. "Hania, you did mean it like that. You always do." Hania whipped her head toward her. "Wow. Thanks for the support on your birthday." "It's not about support," Mira said, unbothered. "It's about honesty. You've been doing this for years." Ryan nodded slowly. "Yeah, you joke by putting people down. Especially her." He tilted his chin toward me. I blinked, surprised. He never got involved. Hania looked genuinely thrown off now, eyes darting between faces, searching for someone to back her up. That support didn't come. My mother, who had always rushed to cover her behavior, suddenly looked conflicted. She avoided my eyes and fixed her napkin for the 7th time, hands trembling just slightly. "Can we please not do this right now?" she whispered, almost to herself. But the truth was already out, sitting between us like a guest no one invited. Hania let out a scoff, only this time. It lacked the confidence she usually wore so easily. "I swear you all take everything so seriously," she said, forcing a laugh. It was a harmless question. "Then why ask it so loudly?" Mira shot back. "And why always at a moment when you know she'll feel cornered?" I lowered my gaze for a moment, exhaling shakily. Part of me wanted to disappear. Another part finally felt seen. But Hania wasn't done. She never quit when her ego felt threatened. She turned to Mom. "Say something." My mother stiffened. She hesitated, then sighed, eyes softening with exhaustion. "Hania, maybe you should be more careful with your words." That single sentence hit Hania harder than anything I'd said. Her own face faltered. "Mom, seriously." Mom didn't look at her, just kept adjusting that napkin, her voice low. "I'm just saying, maybe you could be kinder." Hania sat back, eyes wide, betrayed. For the first time in years, she realized she wasn't untouchable. And I realized something too. All those years of silence didn't protect peace. It only protected her. She scoffed again, but this time her voice wavered. So now I'm some bully. No, I said softly. You're someone who needs attention. And hurting me has become your easiest way to get it. Her jaw clenched. I saw emotions flicker behind her eyes. Anger, embarrassment, something like fear. Why would I need attention from you? She muttered weakly. Because, I said quietly, you know I won't fight back. Or at least, I didn't. Her face twitched. She looked away, blinking rapidly, like she didn't want anyone to see how much that hit. The waiter arrived with the birthday cake then, sparklers cracking and sparkling. The timing felt surreal, almost absurd. Everyone stood, sang for Mira, clapped. Yet the tension stayed, heavy and metallic in the air. When the candles were blown out, Mira turned to me and whispered, I'm proud of you. I swallowed, throat tight. After cake, people began talking again, but I noticed something new. No one laughed at Hania's remarks. No one encouraged her. No one entertained her little jabs. A few aunts even moved closer to me, asking if I was okay. Their eyes were sympathetic, even apologetic. For once, I wasn't the one shrinking. Hania was. She sat stiffly, arms crossed, face flushed, picking at her cake like a child denied a toy. She didn't look smug anymore. She didn't look superior. She didn't look amused. She looked exposed. And it wasn't because I attacked her. It was because I finally stopped letting her attack me. But I also knew the real conversation between us wasn't over. Not yet. Not even close. As people got up from the table and began to mingle, the tension remained thick, like a storm cloud no one wanted to walk under. Aunts gathered near the dessert station, whispering softly. Cousins glanced between me and Hania as if waiting for round two. I stood to stretch my legs when I heard footsteps behind me. Wait! I turned. Hania stood there, a little smaller than before. Not physically. Emotionally. Her arms were still crossed, but her eyes weren't sharp now. They were unsettled. Unsure. We need to talk, she said stiffly. I nodded and followed her toward a quieter corner, away from the table, away from the soft restaurant lighting, away from curious eyes. For a moment, she didn't speak. She looked down, twisting her bracelet around her wrist, a nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. Not since we were kids. Finally, she said, I don't know why everyone ganged up on me. My breath stilled. So that's where she started. I kept my voice calm. They didn't gang up on you. They saw what you do. Her jaw flexed. I wasn't trying to hurt you. But you did, I said. Every time. She looked away, eyes glistening, not with tears, but with pride cracking. Hania, I said quietly, you've been using me as a punchline our whole lives. That's not fair, she muttered. No, I said. What's not fair is humiliating your sister at a dinner filled with people. Her eyes flicked up sharply, but instead of anger, there was something surprisingly fragile lurking there. I'm not used to you talking back, she admitted. The honesty startled me. I took a slow breath. That's exactly the problem. She shifted uncomfortably. You always just let things go. And today you didn't. It felt like... She hesitated. Like I didn't know who you were. I let that sit between us. I didn't know who I was either, I said honestly. Not when it came to you. She blinked rapidly. I continued. Every time you joked about my relationship status, or my weight in the past, or my job, or my feelings, I told myself you didn't mean it, because that was easier than admitting my own sister enjoyed hurting me. Her face fell, really fell. Not dramatically. Not defensively. Just fell. I don't enjoy hurting you, she whispered. But you don't stop, I said gently. And that's the same thing. She swallowed hard. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The sounds of the restaurant filled the silence, clinking glasses, distant laughter, the soft murmur of conversations that had nothing to do with the fracture happening here. Then she said something I didn't expect. I guess. I'm jealous. I blinked. Of what? She exhaled shakily, as if admitting the words made her feel exposed. You don't revolve around anyone's approval. Even when you're quiet, you have your own world. I've never had that. I've always needed people around me. I've always needed attention. The admission stunned me. I had prepared myself for defensiveness, excuses, even fake apologies. Not this, she continued, voice trembling. When I joke about you being single, it makes me feel like I have something you don't. Something people admire me for. And when you do that, I said softly, it makes me feel small for something that isn't wrong. Her eyes met mine, finally, fully. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not perfect. Not polished. Not convenient. But real. It didn't erase years of hurt. It didn't fix everything instantly. But it was a beginning. I don't want us to keep doing this, I said. She nodded silently. Neither do I. We walked back to the table together, not holding hands, not hugging, but with something softer in the space between us. Something that hadn't been there in a long time. When the night ended, Mira hugged me tight. You were brave today, she whispered. You changed something. As I stepped out into the cool night, I realized she was right. I hadn't just stood up to Hania. I had stood up for myself. For the version of me who'd stayed quiet too long. For the woman who no longer accepted smallness to keep the peace. And as I walked to my car alone, no +1, no partner, no hand to hold, I felt something warm settle in my chest. I wasn't incomplete. I wasn't lacking. I wasn't behind. I was enough. And this time, I finally believed it.